I want to take you back to 1973. Y'all better get your dance on. Y'all want to get your dance on?
How did a group of brothers from Cincinnati create a musical empire that has lasted for over 6 decades?
When I say wonderful, I really mean that.
Yeah.
And I really want to give thanks to all those fans, the people that liked our music. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
The Isley Brothers are more than just a band. They're a testament to resilience, reinvention, and musical genius. From gospel beginnings to pioneering R&B, funk, rock, and soul, they have influenced generations of artists while continuously evolving with the times. Their music has been covered, sampled, and celebrated across genres, proving that their impact is timeless. But behind their success is a story filled with tragedy, perseverance, and a relentless pursuit of musical excellence. So how did a family of singers managed to stay relevant for more than half a century? Let's dive into the extraordinary story of the Isley Brothers. The Isley Brothers' story began in the early 1950s in Cincinnati, Ohio, when 4 young brothers, O'Kelly, Rudolph, Ronald, and Vernon Isley, began singing gospel music in church. Raised in a deeply religious household, their love for music was nurtured from a young age, and their natural harmonies made them stand out. The brothers quickly gained a reputation for their powerful voices and heartfelt performances, winning talent competitions and performing at local events. But just as their musical journey was beginning, tragedy struck. In 1955, their youngest brother Vernon, who was only 13 years old, died in a tragic bicycle accident. His death devastated the family, and the group nearly fell apart. For a time, O'Kelly, Rudolph, and Ronald struggled to continue without him, as Vernon had been a key part of their harmony. However, rather than letting grief silence their music, the remaining 3 brothers made a life-changing decision. They would continue singing, but this time, they would transition from gospel to secular music. By 1957, the Isley Brothers left Cincinnati for New York City, determined to make a name for themselves in the growing world of rhythm and blues. They knew that if they wanted to succeed, they had to be where the industry was thriving. With little money but an abundance of talent and determination, they began performing at clubs and talent shows, hoping for their big break. It wouldn't take long before the world would hear their voices, and when it did, the Isley Brothers would never be forgotten. In 1959, the Isley Brothers experienced their first real taste of success, and it all started with a spontaneous moment on stage. During one of their performances, they improvised an energetic call and response section that sent the crowd into a frenzy. That raw energy and excitement became the foundation for their first major hit, Shout. Unlike anything else at the time, Shout wasn't just a song, it was an experience. The track blended gospel influences with rhythm and blues, creating an electrifying anthem that made listeners feel like they were right there in the moment. Although Shout didn't immediately dominate the charts, it became a cultural phenomenon. The song's infectious energy made it a favorite at parties, weddings, and sporting events, and it was later covered by artists like the Beatles and the Isley Brothers' future collaborator Jimi Hendrix. Over the years, it has remained one of the most enduring songs in American music, proving that the Isley Brothers had something special. Following the success of Shout, the Isley Brothers signed with RCA Records, eager to capitalize on their momentum. But despite their talent and growing reputation, they struggled to find consistent chart success in the early 1960s. While their follow-up singles gained moderate attention, they hadn't yet found that next big hit to cement their place in the industry. That moment, however, was just around the corner. The Isley Brothers refused to be confined to one sound. Unlike many artists of their era who stuck to a single formula, the Isleys continuously evolved, experimenting with different styles and adapting to the changing musical landscape. Their next breakthrough came in 1962 when they recorded Twist and Shout. While the song gained popularity, it became even more famous when the Beatles released their own version in 1963. This exposure helped introduce the Isley Brothers to an even wider audience. By the late 1960s, the brothers took a bold step toward creative independence. Frustrated with record labels controlling their music, they launched their own label, T-Neck Records. This move gave them the freedom to shape their sound without industry restrictions, and it paid off. In 1969, they released It's Your Thing, a funk-driven anthem that became a defining hit of the era. The song won them a Grammy Award and signaled a new chapter in their career. Throughout the 1970s, the Isley Brothers fully embraced funk, rock, and soul, incorporating electric guitars and socially conscious themes into to their music. They expanded their lineup by bringing in younger family members, including Ernie Isley, Marvin Isley, and Chris Jasper, which gave their sound a fresh edge. Hits like That Lady, Fight the Power, and For the Love of You showcased their versatility. One moment they were delivering hard-hitting funk grooves, and the next they were crooning smooth love ballads. What made the Isley Brothers unique wasn't just their ability to create hit songs, it was their ability to reinvent themselves while still staying true to their roots. While other groups faded with the times, the Isleys adapted, ensuring they remained relevant in an industry that was constantly changing. But their journey wasn't without challenges, and the next chapter of their career would test their resilience like never before. For decades, the Isley Brothers had been masters of reinvention, but their journey wasn't without setbacks. As the 1980s approached, the music industry was changing, and new genres like hip-hop and electronic music were taking over. While many artists struggled to adapt, the Isley Brothers found themselves facing an even greater challenge: personal loss. In 1986, tragedy struck when O'Kelly Isley, one of the founding members, passed away from a heart attack at just 48 years old. His death was a devastating blow to the group, as he had been a driving force behind their signature harmonies and leadership. Many wondered if the remaining members could continue without him, but in true Isley fashion, they pushed forward, refusing to let the group's legacy fade. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Isleys faced another transition. With Ronald Isley taking center stage, the group's sound shifted towards smooth R&B, embracing the romantic slow jam style that was dominating the charts. They collaborated with artists like R. Kelly, who helped them produce new hits like Down Low, Nobody Has to Know in 1996. Despite the industry's shift towards younger acts, the Isleys proved they could still compete, staying relevant when many of their peers had faded into the past. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Isley Brothers' career is how their influence continued to grow. Even as new generations took over the music industry, their songs have been sampled by some of the biggest artists in hip-hop and R&B, ensuring their sound remains timeless. Between the Sheets, 1983, for example, became one of the most sampled songs in history, with artists like the Notorious B.I.G., Aaliyah, and Jay-Z using its melodies in their own music. By the 2000s, the Isley Brothers had cemented their legendary status. In 2003, they released the album Body Kiss, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, a rare achievement for a group that had been making music for nearly 50 years. It was a testament to their lasting impact and ability to stay relevant in an ever-changing industry. In recent years, Ronald Isley has continued to perform and keep the Isley Brothers' legacy alive. Even after 6 decades, the group's music remains a staple in pop culture, proving that true artistry never fades. The Isley Brothers' story is one of resilience, innovation, and timeless music. Few artists can say they've influenced nearly every genre of modern music, but the Isleys did just that. From gospel to funk, from rock to R&B, their sound evolved with the times while still staying true to its roots. They survived personal loss, industry shifts, and the changing tastes of audiences, yet their music remains as powerful today as it was decades ago. Their songs continue to be played, sampled, and celebrated, showing that great music never truly fades. It only gets passed down to new generations. The Isley Brothers didn't just make hits, they built a legacy that will last forever.